Hello everybody, welcome to the Snake Room. Today we are going to be talking about this right here, which is my Fluval Spec 15-gallon tank. This tank has been running since about October of last year, so I believe this is about month 15 or 16. I've got the lights turned all the way up so that we can see what's going on in the tank and talk about some of the great things about this tank and also some of the shortcomings. First of all, just like an overview of the tank, 15 gallons, I believe it's 15 by 15 by 15. We've got filtration going in the back. Also really nice is there's space for a heater back here. I'm just using the Fluval heater that is for this size of the tank. I've had almost no problems with this. It's a really great setup. There's filter media in the middle. This thing comes out. There's spaces in the foam when you pull this out of here. To where you can see right here, you can put your carbon filter in there. You can mix up the filtration to suit your needs if you need to. I actually took the carbon filter out of there because I didn't feel like I wanted it. That's also nice because if you end up with ick in the tank, which when I first added these cardinals, we had some ick on us, I was able to really easily just pull that out, remove the carbon, and that was all it took. This is where our pump lives. Our pump just kind of hangs out in the bottom of this, screws into this little nozzle or this little portal right here, and then pushes water out through here. It's definitely not the strongest pump on earth. However, I have not had too many problems with it. It's been going for like 15 months now. Last week I did have to take this apart and just kind of clean out the tube and make sure that there wasn't a bunch of gunk in there. In this tank, I'm doing that once every 10 days, and in this, I'm doing it once every 15 months. So as far as that goes, I've been pretty happy with it. The one thing I will say over on the left side is that there's there's one up here and there's one down here, portals for the water to move through. I do like that quite a bit. However, when I'm filling up the tank, I just keep RO water up here. A bunch of mulm and gunk comes out of that, which, I mean, I'm not offended by that. That's just kind of what happens. However, I feel like if you could keep what's back there from coming up here, that might be helpful for some people. As you can see, this tank is heavily planted. Did I throw away the lid? I think I did. There was a lid for that up there. Maybe it's down there. I don't know. I did not use the factory lid and light that they give you, so I cannot speak to that. From what I read online, those lights, I mean, they're not bad lights, but they're not great lights. For the longest time, I was using this bad boy right here. This is a Finex 24/7 Plus planted light. It broke. When it broke, I went out, bought this guy here. I super love this Fluval light, and I have never had a light that has done so well for my plants before. If you're gonna get this tank and you want to do better than the light there, go ahead and get that. I think it's Plant 3.0 light. I made a review on it. I'll link that below if you feel like watching it. As far as our stock and our setup goes, you can see down here, I'm doing a dirted tank with a sand cap. I've got about 2 or 3 inches of sand, which is probably more than I should have used, but so far it has not proved consequential. However, I will say that these Bacopa did not do that well until I got this good lighting in here and got some root tabs going. That might be related to how much sand I'm using in here. In the middle of the tank, as you can see here, I've just kind of got a river of gravel going. I like to use a couple different kinds of substrates just because it kind of adds to the tank and makes things look a little different. And then for the scape, I just use dragonstone and some Mopani wood and spider wood in the back. The Mopani and spider wood was not in there until about a month ago. I just added that slowly over time because I realized I could toss some more plants on it. As far as plants go, this section back behind these dragonstones right here is primarily wisteria. As you can see, the wisteria is kind of getting busted in my opinion back here. It's mostly just roots that are throwing themselves down into the dirt. So I think over the next couple of months, I'm going to pull this wisteria out, maybe replace it with some rotala or something that will be a little bit better looking. In front of these dragonstones, I've got a ton of Vallisneria americana. I've also got one over here that's throwing off runners like crazy. On this side of this dragonstone wall is where I've got all my Bacopa. I really super love Bacopa. I think I started with only 4 plants. These two have hung in there throughout. These guys have been growing there for almost a year and a half now. Whereas some of these guys over here, and then the one that I've got planted in the middle of the gravel bed. Those ones have either been propagated by clippings or have just kind of sprung up on their own. I'm really thrilled with how the Bacopa's doing right now. It took it really until I got this Fluval light to start doing well. Once it started doing well, it started to explode, and we're super happy about that. In the back left in this gravel bed, I have an Amazon sword that I got from work. It may not have been the best idea to use an Amazon sword in this tank because it's giant, and as you can see from above, nearly every one of its leaves are either growing out of the water or pushed up against the side of the tank. If I could redo this tank, I might not do that plant. However, I actually think it looks pretty cool. Using a way too big plant in a way too small tank might not be the best thing to do always, but in this tank it's actually turned out to look pretty cool. I've been pretty happy with it. In the front here, we have my favorite plant that I could put in this tank, that being Crinum calamostratum. Planted that last weekend. It's starting to do pretty well. Hopefully the next time we look at this tank after a couple more months, that thing will be expansive, growing all over the place. That thing is so cool. There is nothing cooler than Crinum. Up on a couple branches of this spiderwood, I've got some pennywort going. I initially tried to grow that pennywort normally, and I don't know what's up with pennywort, but I suck at pennywort. Pennywort is like where I am worst in the whole world in terms of keeping fish, because every time I planted it, it dies. But then I figured out that, especially with where the flow from this pump comes out, I put one over here. You're not going to be able to see it because of the canopy, but there's another one that sits right about there. They do pretty well, especially this one back on the left. That's really the only one that I've ever had that didn't just melt immediately. This one's a little bit smaller. I'm going to have to move that down here where it's a little shadier so that it can grow up towards the light, because right now it's like right under the light and it's getting swamped by algae. Speaking of algae, I've got 4 mystery snails in here. I see this one right now. I have 3 that are about this big, and then I have 1 little tiny one. 4 might have been overkill for this tank. I will admit that now that I'm starting to realize it. Oh, there's another one. However, especially when I added them, the whole front of the glass was covered in algae. With this stupid aggressive light, it's not necessarily a bad idea to give myself some protection against the growth of algae, especially since I've got some plants in here that are doing well, and I really don't want to lose that crinum. Also, you can't see it, but there's, well, you can kind of see it, but just not that well. There's Java fern in the back of this tank that I have super glued onto a piece of Mopani. There's also, I don't know where they went. There was some Bucephalandra on there. The super glue didn't hold too well, so there's now floating Bucephalandra, which is just fine. As far as livestock goes on this tank, I have a school of 6 cardinal tetras in here right now. I've consistently tried to get that school up above 8. I started with 8, lost a couple of them to parasites, added 2 more, added too many magnolia pods in here, which was the stupidest mistake that I've made throughout keeping this tank, and that killed 2 of them. So that sucked. I'm back down to 6, but in time, I don't know, maybe that's just a sign that, hey, the cap is 6, you don't need to add any more, but I would really love to get some more in here because it's just, I love cardinals. They look so good. And then she's in the back right now. I can't really get a good look at her, but there's a female beta in here. She's just a PetSmart beta that I got from work. Every once in a while, we get a beta in that is just so handsome that I cannot keep myself from buying it. I used to have a ton of Neocardina shrimp in here. Since I've brought the pH down a little bit, I think I've lost most of those. They were doing really well. We have super hard water here in Denver, and they liked it, but I started bringing the pH down to suit my cardinals. And actually, it's not even so much the pH, it was the softness that I started bringing down to bring the pH down, which helps the cardinals, which in turn hurt my Neocardina. I'm going to have to get more shrimp for this tank because the shrimp that I had in this tank were really tight and I loved watching them. That will have to wait for a couple months till I can order shrimp online because I don't really want to buy any from the stores in Denver because they don't have the ones I want. There's also some Amano shrimp that when I first started the tank did not do well, and then since I switched the water parameters, they're doing a little better now. I don't see any of them, but they're in here. They're very active at night, not really during the day. Oh, I forgot to mention this frog bit on the top of this tank, especially with this light. The roots on that frog bit will get like almost 2 feet long, so I'm basically yanking frog bit out of this tank once a week. Generally when I do that, I bring them into work and I just either throw them in with the frogs or I give them out to people. There's also 2 Otocinculuses in here, another group that has benefited greatly from bringing the hardness in this tank down quite a bit, but I can't see them. A lot of the times during the day they sit under that piece of mapani. In the back of this, there's something of a cave back there that I made so that things could have babies and not have to worry about cardinal tetras eating them. So that's probably where the Otos are. There's also some dwarf Sagittaria back here that I'd hoped it would grow up through here and carpet the whole tank, but so far it's there. One thing that I have kind of been frustrated with since I bought this tank, it's not so much like, it's not a flaw as much as it is just kind of a quirk of this design. With this bowed front glass, it just kind of does weird stuff with light. So I have a window right there, and a lot of these plants for the longest time when I had that Finex light were growing towards the glass. It's also a thing where like if fish are sitting close to this, it kind of disorients them, I think, because I've caught my fish a lot of times kind of sitting like crooked and weird when they get close to the glass. And so I don't know if that's just something that I've noticed that all fish do or what, but yeah, it's definitely pretty weird when there's like 5 fish almost standing straight up in front of the glass because they're not sure what's going on. Another thing that I don't like this about this tank is this like lacy white net. I don't know why this is here. I mean, it doesn't ruin things that much, but at the same time, like, why is that there? Why is that not just tank? I don't like that. Stop doing that. And like, I get back here putting this up so that you can't see the filter and stuff. That makes sense. But what don't you want to see here? Why? And so yeah, really that's just about it. That has just kind of been my experience with this tank. When I keep planted tanks, which is why I got this, is to plant the hell out of it, I kind of just go nature on it, where I just throw plants in and let plants get their roots in, and I don't trim, I don't do much except for like I'll remove some Vallisneria because I want to be able to see my fish. But other than that, I kind of just let this tank go wild, and it has done awesome for me that way. I don't know what's the experience of other people that are maybe a little bit more scheduled and controlled with the way that they keep their plants, but this has just been mine. It's going to be really awesome. I want to add some more fish to this. I also kind of feel like just setting up another one of these right there. This rack is going to be moved into the basement and turn into a native plant rack coming up. So I've got to figure out a solution for what this tank is going to go on. But before I tear it down and have to drain it and potentially mess a bunch of stuff up, I just wanted to take a quick video, take a quick moment to talk about this tank, what I have going on in it, and my experience with it.